Well, a little over a week ago, a group called Responsible Growth Arkansas, which wants to legalize recreational marijuana for adults over the age of 21, turned in over 190,000 signatures to get that ballot petition qualified for November. Not only would the initiative legalize cannabis for those over 21, it would set up an expanded cultivation and dispensary system and restructure the taxation system for marijuana. I caught up with Wright Lindsey Jennings attorney Steve Lancaster, spokesman for the group. Why do you think the time is right now? We're just now kind of getting our sea legs with medical marijuana underneath us here in Arkansas. There's a lot of folks that will say this is too much too soon. Again, as you indicated, you got 190,000 signatures. There's certainly a large contingency out there that thinks the time is right.
Yeah, I think that's a big piece of it, that voters are ready for this, and they're letting us know that that's the case. So it's partly being driven internally from within the state. Frankly, there's also a lot that's going on in the state surrounding Arkansas. And the thought being that this is something that is coming our way. We can either be a part of it, or we're going to lose out to some of our neighboring states, both in jobs and tax revenue for the state.
I'm going to give you a chance to address some criticism that's come up from the group. There's a competing recreational marijuana amendment that did not turn in signatures this time around. They have said that there's too much big money behind this. There's not enough for the mom and pop organizations that are out there. It's going to benefit people that already have a lot of money. Is that fair criticism? You got to have some money to get this thing on the ballot.
Well, that's very true. The process that Arkansas has put together to get one of these on the ballot, it's difficult, it's complicated, it's not something that can typically be done at a grassroots level with volunteers. So it does take funds to get something on the ballot. I don't think that that's fair to describe this as, the term I've heard is the rich getting richer. It's more a matter, we've got a group of people who are already in the industry. They've made a significant investment in what it takes to grow and sell these products. And it's just an extension of what they're already doing. It's a highly regulated environment. We anticipate that it's going to continue to be highly regulated. So we think that it needs to be with people who are familiar with the industry, know how to navigate the regulations that go along with it, and get the product out to people. Now, there are a number of additional licenses that will be issued under the proposal, both for cultivators and for the retailers or dispensaries. And so those are opportunities for new people to come into the market. And we think that that's the opportunity for folks who are interested in the industry and have not yet had an opportunity to participate.
It's been part of the conversation, but it is not part of your group's proposal there to deal with the incarceration angle of marijuana. That has been something that's been talked about too, addressing that. Why did you guys intentionally leave that out? Is that just independent of the business of this, or was there some consideration given to that?
Well, yeah, there was a consideration. I think that everybody in our group would agree that that's something that should be addressed. But the reality of getting an initiative on the ballot in Arkansas is that it needs to be somewhat tailored and concise and as short as possible. We've got legal considerations about the length of our ballot title, what it describes, and the more complicated it gets, the more difficult it is to survive a challenge. So it was a conscious decision. Let's get this passed. One, we're going to stop that it's illegal to possess an ounce of adult use cannabis in the state. So we think that that'll be a beginning and an important beginning. And then it'll allow the legislature to do its work, hopefully to address things like expungement and social equity.
What was that? You mentioned this earlier, just this whole new collection process for getting a ballot initiative, onto the potentially onto the ballot. What was the biggest challenge that you guys kind of experienced under these new laws that we're having to play with in Arkansas in terms of ballot access for a citizens-led initiative?
Yeah, there were probably a couple of things that were really added to the difficulty beyond what was already out there. We always have to have, in this case, 89,000 and some change valid signatures of registered voters listed correctly in the right county and things like that. That's always been out there, and we still have to do that. The biggest changes for this cycle than what we've seen in the past, a couple of things. First, all of our canvassers, our paid canvassers, have to be Arkansas residents. In the past, you would see groups come in with professional canvassers from all over the country. They would hit the streets with their petitions and gather their signatures. This time, again, they all have to be Arkansas residents. We just didn't have a body of people to perform that. So it was kind of built from scratch to locate and recruit, hire and train these people to follow Arkansas law. So that was really tough, especially for the early going when we were just getting started. The second thing that was difficult was there was a change in Arkansas law that you can't pay somebody to solicit and get paid on a per signature basis. And again, what has happened historically with canvassing companies is they'll recruit and pay their canvassers based upon the number of signatures that they bring in. Arkansas law changed for this cycle where you can no longer do that. So in our case, our canvassers were paid by the hour, regardless of how many signatures they were gathering. So again, that made it more difficult. Now we understand why that was done. The legislature was concerned about fraud in the process. There have been issues in past years. So we recognized that it was going to make things more difficult, but we embraced that and we did what we needed to do to comply with Arkansas law, but also get our signatures.
Yeah.
Thankfully, we had people who were very excited to come and sign our petition.
All right. Also, the proposal, I'm not going to go through the details of it. It does change significantly the tax structure of how medical marijuana taxes are collected. It puts in place a new kind of regiment for how some of the taxes from recreational marijuana, and I assume medical marijuana sales would kind of all be pooled together and would be distributed. Without having to go too much into the details, do you have any kind of idea of what the net tax effect on the state may be based on what you've been seeing off medical marijuana sales, what you might project some recreational sales to be? I mean, clearly, if you're adding another layer in there, there's going to be more tax revenue for the state. But was this structure that you guys put in place built upon, some sort of estimate, I guess?
Yeah, and we're still working with some economists on putting real numbers to that. I think the best guess right now is that we would probably be expecting something like a increase by a factor of 3 in the sales around the state. What we've done is would be eliminating the tax on medical marijuana. That currently is going to general revenues in a number of areas. But what we would do is eliminate that tax so that if people are buying medical marijuana based upon their certification under existing law, they wouldn't have to pay taxes on that. our tax that would be on the adult use cannabis, that would all be going to general revenues with some earmarks for other areas. And those are the thing that we're really proud of is part of this will go to stipends for law enforcement. Currently, Arkansas law enforcement, they're some of the lowest paid professionals, law enforcement professionals in the country. We want to do something about that. So there'll be stipends for all certified law enforcement. We'll continue with some of the medical research, cancer research that was currently going through medical marijuana will now go there. And then finally, Arkansas has created drug courts, and we're going to be providing some dedicated funding for those courts. So the rest going to general revenues.
Well, with the legislature sloughing off the teacher salary increases here in this upcoming special session, you could have got 30,000 teachers on your side. You've thrown in a little for them there. So we'll see about that. Last question for you. Chances of passage. We've got some public polling out there that's a few months old that shows about 53.5% support an adult use of recreational marijuana in our Talk Business and Politics Hendricks College poll. You're welcome to share anything that you guys have internally with me on that might support that.
We've not done any internal polling of our own. We were very excited when we saw that poll, and we weren't completely surprised to see that kind of number. Again, based upon the reaction that we got from Arkansas voters on the petition. Roby, we were able to get signatures from every county in the state. Again, people they want this, and we want to be able to provide this to Arkansans in a responsible way. And that's I think one of the biggest distinctions between what we're trying to do and some of the other efforts. We understand that it needs to be regulated. For those folks who aren't necessarily supporters of this, we want them to know that we're going to do this in a responsible way. We're going to limit the number of stores who are selling. It's not going to be on every corner. There's not a home grow component, so it's going to be controlled, be able to be taxed. And the quality and the quantities are going to be controlled to some degree. And then finally, we're making sure that this is not going to be sold or put in the hands of kids. It's 21 and older, and we've got provisions in the amendment to make sure that this is not sold to kids. It's not packaged in a way that would be appealing to kids. This is an adult product, and that's the way we want to treat it.